Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to this press conference today, the 6th European Anti-Trafficking Day. I would also like to thank the European Commission for its cooperation in organizing today's event and for being a faithful companion in this effort. Today's conference on working together for the eradication of trafficking in human beings, the way forward, is providing us with the opportunity to exchange views on how to improve ourselves in the fight against trafficking in human beings, how to further strengthen cooperation, protection of victims, prevention and prosecution of criminals, with our focus turned to the future. I was pleased to note that participation in today's conference is overwhelming. This shows that we, member states and civil society, walk hand in hand in the fight against the crime called trafficking in human beings. What was predominant this morning from all our speakers is that cooperation and coordination are the core elements for the present and the future for tackling trafficking in human beings. We even heard the idea of establishing a global anti-trafficking day to work as a reminder in this direction. Furthermore, our speakers stressed once again the need to further elaborate on ways to assess trends and to evaluate our actions, as well as the pressing need to implement the tools and instruments that are in our hands. It was also underlined the importance of having political commitment from the member states for this fight, and the need to have victims-centered policies and approaches. We have to say that during the last decades, the European Union has recognized the need for a more coordinated action to this crime. The Cyprus presidency has kept this issue high on its agenda. The high political commitment of the presidency and the other member states in this effort will be expressed through the Council conclusions on the strategy, which are expected to be adopted next week. The fact is that despite all our efforts over the year, this crime remains one of the fastest growing forms of organized crime, maintained and developed by exploiting poverty, social inequalities, and the lack of real prospects in the countries of origin of victims. We firmly believe that we now have in our hands the legislative and practical tools to effectively tackle this crime. What is now necessary is to remain alert, focused, and implement without excuses these tools in our day-to-day work. Our ultimate goal is to address the root causes of this crime, to protect those who need our help, and to fight those who trade human lives. We believe that our Europe can and should be a better world. It should be a leader on the road to progress, prosperity, stability, and peace. And this is where fight against trafficking is leading. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. On the occasion of the 6th EU Anti-Trafficking Day, today, the 18th of October, the EU Commissioner for Home Affairs, Cecilia Malmström, Cyprus Minister of Interior, Eleni Mavro, and myself, as the EU Anti-Trafficking Coordinator on behalf of the Commission, are taking part in a conference organized jointly by the Commission and the Cyprus Presidency. The conference, entitled Working Together to Eradicate Trafficking in Human Beings, aims precisely to shape future actions and ensure that all actors work together towards the eradication of the phenomenon. It is a very serious issue in the European Union. Up to 880,000 people are estimated by the International Labour Organization to be trafficked into the European Union. That is 1.8 persons per 1,000 inhabitants. According to the latest Eurobarometer survey of June 2012, 93% of Europeans agree that EU member states should cooperate to tackle trafficking in human beings. Depriving someone of their liberty, exploiting them, and trading them as commodities for profits are serious human rights violations. Trafficking in human beings cannot be tolerated in any form, be it in Europe or anywhere else in the world. We have developed ambitious legislations and measures to address the issue at the EU level, and we see that the political will by the member states is there. I will echo the Minister of Interior, Ms Mavro, when I say that the focus must be on implementation. We need to translate the legislation into reality. It is both a legal but also a moral obligation that we have, and we can only do this together with international organizations, third countries, civil society organizations, the private sector, and everyone else involved in addressing trafficking. The European Commission urges the Member States to transpose the new EU legislation on trafficking in human beings in a timely manner and to implement concrete and practical measures identified in the new EU strategy in order to effectively address the devastating crime. Member States have 6 months to implement the directive, that is, by April 2013. We are also asking the Member States to ratify all relevant international instruments and mostly the UN Protocol and the Convention of the Council of Europe on trafficking in human beings. These issues are amongst the main priorities and initiatives addressed in the EU strategy towards the eradication of trafficking in human beings for 2012 to 2016. The EU strategy is a practical instrument addressing the main needs and challenges in the EU for the next 5 years from a human rights and gender-specific perspective. It identifies 5 priorities and outlines a series of initiatives for each one of them. It prioritizes over-identification, protection and assistance to victims, prevention of trafficking in human beings, increasing prosecution of traffickers, enhancing coordination, cooperation, and coherence within the EU, and learning more, increasing knowledge, effective response to emerging trends. For example, the total number of cases prosecuted in the EU remains low. I'm very happy that the President of Eurojust in the previous panel today presented their new action plan that precisely emphasizes the need for better quality of prosecution and more numbers in prosecution. And it is a very strategic plan that we fully support. In fact, preliminary results of recent data show that the numbers of convictions of trafficking in human beings has decreased from 2008 to 2010. This is why the strategy also foresees, inter alia, the establishment of national multidisciplinary law enforcement units specialized in human trafficking and supports member states in establishing joint investigation teams. Further, better identification of the victims and better assistance and protection will increase their participation and their cooperation with law enforcement. The strategy emphasizes the need for formalized national referral mechanisms in all member states. I will not highlight all of the 40 ambitious and concrete actions of the strategy. We are here today to ensure that it is implemented and that it is done so in a coherent manner and with all stakeholders on board. The title of the strategy is Working Together Towards the Eradication of Trafficking in Human Beings. It is as ambitious as our response to the deplorable phenomenon needs to be. We have the document, we have the actions at the EU level agreed upon. What we're here today is to discuss the best ways forward and to implement these actions in a collective effort. Thank you very much.